Private Investigators Association of Idaho. Um, the speaker we have for today is somebody very special to me because this is not only my boss, but also my mentor and friend, Sally Tierney. Um, Sally and I have been working together for, I think, coming up on 3 years, as best we could figure out. I can vouch for the fact that she's an amazing business owner. And she's going to talk to us today about getting our PI businesses up and running and some of her own story and how she got started, which is fascinating and a really fun story. So I think you'll really enjoy it. I will just a couple of matters of business before we get started. I will encourage everyone, if you haven't already, to go ahead and mute yourselves. We will be recording this. I believe we may already be recording this. Yes, we are. So this session will be up after the probably the end of today. Typically, it's up within about 24 hours on both our YouTube channel and our website. It's available in both places, and I'll go ahead and share those links in chat here in a few minutes so you can reach those easily. As far as questions go, I believe Sally wants this to be more of a conversational approach. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sally, but if people have questions, would you like them to put them in the chat or raise their hand, or how would you like to handle it?
I think that people can just unmute themselves and ask me if they feel like while I'm talking, there's something really they want me to, talk more about. But yeah, I didn't know how I hope I'm helpful. I've got a whole bunch of lists here to go through, and if people want to interrupt me and ask questions about what I'm talking about, please do it.
Okay, that sounds great. So let's just say you can go ahead and interrupt, especially if there's a little bit of a lull in the sound. Go ahead and pop your sound on and ask a question, or there's ways to put your hand up. You can, if you wish, put it in chat if you're not getting through, and we'll communicate those questions one way or the other. They'll get through, and Sally will interact as she goes. Maybe we'll save a little time at the end as well for any remaining questions. So, Sally, go ahead and take it away.
Hello. Thank you for having me. So Claire asked me to talk about my story, and then this ended up being titled Building Your PI Firm in a roundabout way. And when I first saw it emailed to me, I thought, oh, good, I need that. So, and then I realized it was me giving the talk. So I hope that I can give enough good information. I am curious how many people are here have already or haven't, let's just say haven't already opened a business. Can we, is, how many people have not opened a business and are actually trying to figure out how to do it? Do we have any idea?
Well, for purposes of everybody not talking at once, let's have everybody just put that information in the chat. Just like if you haven't opened a business, go ahead and put your name in and the fact that you haven't got a business and you're interested. Does that sound good, Sally?
Yeah, that's great. Um, because I'm myself I've had this business for 4 years. And so I'm going to be talking about how I went from being a dance teacher and a dance studio owner to being a private investigator and a owner of a private investigation firm. I'm also like at a place now where I'm super busy and working basically all the time and trying to figure out what I'm going to do next, if I'm going to grow the business or if I'm going to boutique the business, or I mean, I'm just trying to figure it out myself, but I can talk to you all about uh, how I went from being a dance teacher to opening this PI firm and just basically starting from scratch and where I am now. So hopefully that's going to be helpful to you. So, Claire wants me to talk about my husband's situation. So I'll just start talking about it. So I am the only thing I've ever done and known and been good at was dance since I'm 5 years old. And I was a professional dancer, and then I was a dance teacher. And then I opened up a dance studio and had that for about 20 years. And I trained excellent dancers that went on to be professionals, and I trained teachers how to teach, and I had a teacher that was working with me, and she wanted to open up her own dance studio, and I was training her how to run the whole business. And I was having so much success with my studio. This woman was kind of running it. I made her the studio manager, and I was working less and enjoying myself more. And I started thinking, oh, I've accomplished so much, I need a new goal. What should I do? Should I learn Spanish? Should I take tennis? Should I learn piano? I actually started learning piano. Um, just feeling kind of like, what's next for me? I was at a place, and I guess don't ask the universe what's next for you, because my husband then was wrongly accused, and he's works in the school system, and it was this bizarre, absolutely ludicrous situation that, I mean, obviously, not obviously to you, but obviously to me, he did none of it. And I'm not going to go into any of the details, but I can tell you that it was absolutely terrifying. We have never felt or faced anything even close to that. It took 2 years. We had to hire two attorneys. We had to hire a private investigator who we thought was the coolest thing in the world. Every time the private investigator would call us, we would gather around the phone and go, the private investigator wants to talk to us. Like, we thought he was the coolest person in the world just because he was called a private investigator. So we had to hire the private investigator, for a computer forensic expert, and two attorneys. It took 2 years. My husband was completely exonerated, apologized to by a huge school district, one of the biggest in the country, got a written apology. We got a settlement that we can't discuss the number, but it was because they know that they did terrible things to us, and we had to prove it. But it really opened my eyes to what could happen to anybody. And everyone is not as, doesn't have a strong marriage, doesn't have the resources to fight it. We had so much help along the way, but I can't tell you how scary it was. And I got obsessed with wrongful convictions. And I don't know if anybody knows that podcast, but it's a podcast about all these people who have mostly gone to jail for things that they didn't do. And the common thread in all of those were somebody had been incompetent in investigating their situation. And when they, were called out on their incompetence, instead of apologizing or correcting it, making it right, they did the opposite, and they doubled down and became malicious. And that's exactly what happened with my husband's situation. So I just saw this over and over, and it just became like this mission for me about investigations and how unfair, and how it's, how do you fight for yourself? And I was just kind of obsessed. And we had another family situation that happened years earlier, and my daughter's on here, and Claire asked me if I could talk about this, and I talked to my daughter, and I'd rather if she talked about it. So, and let me set it up, Liz. So I'm like obsessed with everything. My husband gets everything back. We're fine. COVID hits, and I'm walking around like, I don't know if everybody else was doing this, but I'd go on, 2, 3 hour walks and listen to podcasts because I couldn't get into my dance studio. And at this time, then I was talking to my daughter about wrongful convictions and how unfair it is, and now I'll introduce my daughter Liz you should tell, and she can tell what she recommended to me.
Yeah, thank you, Mom. I, well, I wanted to share a little bit about how my mom advocated for me and helped me in another situation. So when I was in high school, I was sexually assaulted. I didn't tell people for many years, but when I was 19, I did tell my mom, and she did a few really amazing things. She believed me without a question. And like many survivors, I had a lot of guilt about some of the things I'd done that led to the assault. And I'll never forget how strong my mom was in telling me that there wasn't anything I could have done that would make it okay for someone to do that. Um, During those years, unsurprisingly, I was really struggling. And my mom did a lot to advocate for me. She'd check in with me periodically, reminding me about my options. Usually, I'd react really angrily because I was really afraid and I wasn't ready. She was never like pushing me further than I was ready to go, but she was really strong when I was very scared. And I would say that was probably a similar situation with what was happening with Dad. Um, and that's a skill of hers. Um, she, during this time, she was researching and trying to figure out what my choices were when statutes of limitations would run out. And she reached out to some of the connections that she had with attorneys who might be able to help me. This is all while I was telling her, just drop it. I don't want to talk about it. She's just quietly doing this research. Um, and at the 7 year mark, when the statute was about to run out, she called me and told me, I know you're probably going to be angry, but I just have to ask one last time so that you don't have any regrets if I'd be willing to meet with an attorney friend of hers to talk about my options. I definitely wasn't ready, but there was a little part of me that knew I also didn't want to have any regrets. Um, Through this long process of reporting the crime and exploring what my civil options were, my mom was a constant support and really beyond what I think is expected or should be expected of a mother. She was a go-between between me and the attorneys. Um, Again, she never pushed. It was always about what I wanted. She, of course, had opinions and thoughts and would share them with me. But the gave me gave me choice and reminded me that I could change my mind at any time. The process of reporting for survivors can really feel like a runaway train, but my mom made sure to connect me with attorneys that also held those same values, that were compassionate and cared about me and were patient while I struggled to put pieces together and deal with a lot of things that I'd been working very hard on avoiding. Um, she helped put in place for me to have a very healing experience with our justice system, which is something very few survivors can say. So kind of like what she was saying about the situation with my dad, at the end of this, I just felt like, wow, um, I feel so lucky, and I knew so much of it had to do with the efforts that my mom made. That we had a resource and a connection, but really also just this really strong advocate in my mom. Both times I think she went above and beyond the role of wife and mother and fiercely advocated for justice on the terms of the person who she loved. So while we were both in podcast world at the beginning of COVID. I'm a big true crime fan. And I was listening to one of my favorites, My Favorite Murderer. Um, there were two within a couple months of each other about just these regular women that started investigating cases of people that they loved, and they ended up solving like these huge murder cases. And one even started her own private investigation firm, and it had a tagline like, "The FBI has nothing on a worried mother." And while I was listening to them, I just thought, like, my mom is one of these women. And, my dad and I had these really positive experiences, but I actually think the world should be able to have these experiences too, and she has a lot to share. So I just sent them to her, and I was surprised as anyone when she started taking PI courses while still running her dance studio. But I always thought this is so weird, but totally right. And now I work as a legal advocate for survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault. And my mom and I connect often over how private investigation can be a form of advocacy, especially the way that she does it.
Thank
I
you,
think even
Liz.
just letting me be the one to tell my story is an example. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad. So glad you're here. So yeah, Liz said, "Mom, you should be a PI like these women on this podcast." And it just, first of all, I never ever would have thought about it. But because I was not able to get into my studio and couldn't work, I had 2 weeks to go take this certification class, and I did. And um, it was it shocked me that you only needed 2 weeks and you were a certified private investigator. And I know you guys in Idaho don't even have that criteria. And you are so wonderful that you're making your own criteria and trying to up the standards. Um, so I was just stunned that I could just go and take 2 weeks and get this certification. And I was thrilled beyond thrilled. And then I started pestering the attorney that worked for my husband, I'll say that worked for us, um, because of course I, created this bond with him over 2 years, and he started to see that I was very tenacious and could do a lot of things that he would tell me that can't be done. I can give lots of examples, but like the principal of the school, I would say, I just need to talk to her. And he'd say, "Well, she'll never talk to you." And I said, I know, but I need to." And then there was this like turkey trot um, for the elementary school. And long story, but I'll just tell you, my dance studio was asked to sponsor it. And I paid like $1,000 or more to be able to pass out turkeys with the principal of the school. When they offered that, I was like, "Sign me up. Where do I mail my check?" And I got there and did that, and ended up convincing her to have lunch with me, which was another long, uh, lots of efforts to get her to actually show up for lunch. And she did, and admitted all kinds of things that she should have never admitted to me. And I actually said to her, uh, "If I'm not your friend, but if I were your friend, I'd advise you to get an attorney." And she said, "My parents are both attorneys." And I just started laughing. I said, "And they let you meet with me for lunch today?" And she said, "They don't know I'm here." But anyway, I did a lot of things that the attorney and no one really thought. That's just one silly example, but I did tons during that 2 years. And so the attorney knew that I was not going, could do things, would do things. And I bugged him so much and got him to just give me little jobs. And that was my first client. But I basically broke this talk down into like chapters. What would I tell somebody to do if they were going to open up a PI firm? So the first thing I would say is work for someone else, a PI firm. Don't get experience, learn, do whatever, do everything and anything. And if you have no skills, which I didn't as a dance teacher, I just begged this person to hire me. Jason Boyer from Viking Investigations, still a good friend. Um, I I said, "Just pay me $10 an hour. I don't want anything. I just want to learn." And the first week he paid me $10 an hour and he said, "This is ridiculous. I'm paying you 20." Like, so just what I'm saying is do it for free if you have no skills for a little while. And if you're good, believe me, people will pay you. That's my opinion. Everything I'm going to say is my opinion. Um, so yeah, I did every single thing that needed to be done. I did trash pulls. So I said I went from tutus to trash pulls in no time. But just, I did all the things and I found out pretty early on that I was really good at interviewing and getting people to talk to me. Um, and so then after a while, I just honed that skill. But I was very upfront with Jason when he first hired me. He asked me to work for him, brought me on, took me out to dinner, made this big formal, like, I'm hiring you. And I just said, I just need you to know I'm going to open my own business because what I really wanted to do is advocate for sexual assault victims and the wrongly accused. I was like obsessed. And he said, that's fine, but I'm hoping that you like working for me enough that you don't open your own business. And we've just stayed friends. I have never lied to him. I've always told him exactly what I'm going to do. And we, and I did. And we help each other. We work with and for each other. And just, I would definitely advise being very transparent with everybody that you work with, so that people know who you are and that they can trust you. One of the things I did right away for Jason and Viking Investigations is just um, I went on LinkedIn, created an account, made a template of a message to attorneys, made connections with as many local attorneys as I could. And I just checked my LinkedIn account. I have 4,819 connections, and I stopped trying to connect with people like 3 years ago. So, focus in. And so, what I would do is just send messages, and some people would nibble, and then we'd do a Zoom. Jason and I would do a Zoom with them. And Jason was a former law enforcement SWAT team cop, big guy, bald, strong. And I was this little dance teacher lady, and I would wear pearls. And looked like in a Zoom meeting, we looked like complete opposites, but like maybe we had all the things that everybody needed. I don't know. It was like really perception. But that was just how we got started. And I was good at luring the clients in to hire us, and then Jason would figure out what to do, and I just turned to him for everything because I knew nothing. Um, so I do want to make the point, Claire and I have talked about this tons, but I will not work for a client unless they have an attorney, and I only work for the attorney. The client pays the attorney pays me. I do that because it protects the client. So whatever situation they're in, if their opposition, if the person that they're in a lawsuit against or whatever it is, gets wind that they have hired a private investigator and they get an attorney, they can subpoena every single ounce of my work product, including notes I wrote myself about the case, recordings I made, texts I sent. Um, so when I inform the client that calls me and says they want me to just hire me, they don't need an attorney, they just want me to find this or that out, um, they're always really happy that I've told them that if you don't want to be exposed like this. You want an attorney to protect you, all of your information. They're very like, oh, wow, thanks for telling me that. So I will help them find an attorney, but I will not work for somebody without an attorney. And the attorney pays me. The client doesn't pay me directly. Um, I do have an example of that. I don't know how much time I have. Where am I? I don't know. Okay. So one example of that was I was on a huge case, and they I am really good at interviewing witnesses and getting them to tell me things that they don't shouldn't maybe tell. Anyway, they got the other side. It was a big, big, big case, and the other side got very upset and came after me and said that I was doing witness intimidation, and they were subpoenaing everything, like I just said, all of my work product. Ended up, I had to hire an attorney to fight that. The firm I was working for helped the attorney I fought, but and then the attorney I hired, um, suggested to the firm I was working for that they should pay my legal fees, which they did. But that is going to be a very rare situation. And I'm telling you this because I don't ever want this to happen to you. So I've put it in every contract moving forward, um, with every attorney that if I am sued for whatever, working on this case and not, and of no fault of my own, that they will cover my legal fees. So just that's a little cautionary tale. And it worked out for me, but I was scared. I was so scared. Um, so yeah, my suggestion would be work for someone else. Or keep your day job and start really small. I would not jump into opening up a firm with no experience and expect to be making any money. I didn't make any money I paid my own money to work basically 6 days a week, for the first year. Maybe I paid $20,000 of my own money and worked constantly. And that was what I did. So I don't know how, maybe somebody else would be luckier, but that's what I did. But I was learning. Second year, I made $10,000. Third year, more, and now I'm making a nice, decent salary 5 years later. But it's so sporadic. It's not a business you can count on. You know, constant income. Things get super busy and then they dry up, and so I don't know about how to get started and make money right away. I think you have to keep your day job or work for someone else and learn. My second big tip would be just train, train, train. So I did the 2 weeks of 2 week course, got certified. It still shocks me. I don't really talk about it too much when people say, "How did you become a PI?" Like it just I don't say it only 2 weeks because it just sounds terrible. So I have done as many trainings as I can since then. I think that you, and there's so many out there. There's so many certifications that you can get. And Idaho, does Claire, you want to discuss your training? You guys started a great training recently.
Well, only briefly, I will say that you can get certified now as an Idaho-based investigator. You can actually get that certification from anywhere in the nation with our self-paced, fully online course. I will share a link to that in the chat as well, but that's a huge benefit, not just to Idaho, but also like for me, when I was looking to get certified, I ended up traveling to Virginia because it was actually my best, most viable option, as things turned out. But I looked first at Washington and Oregon and everywhere near to me to see what I could manage to get to work. And it was very difficult to put together a training or certification. So I think there are probably people who are not in Idaho or who are in that position. Certainly, all of us in Idaho are. And so to have something fully online that you can go through at your own pace, that's affordable, I think that's a huge value. And I hope a lot of people nationwide end up taking advantage of it.
Yeah,
Thanks for bringing that up, Sally.
I really admire you for doing that. I mean, you guys could just totally bypass that and just start working, but I love high standards. So I do as many trainings as I possibly can. Some of them that stood out and I wrote them down were I did a trauma-informed interviewing training, that was a week long, 8 hours a day. It was a sexual assault academy, in Maryland. I just did that. I did something through Brandon Perrin, CDITC. It's a criminal defense investigation and case management certification. And then I followed up with the same organization and did a forensic interviewing certification. I highly recommend Brandon Perrin. I think he runs an excellent training. I his email is investigator.perrin, Perron at gmail.com if anybody's interested in doing trainings with him. I did a behavioral analysis certification course through Leaking the Truth, and that's Bruce Jacobs. That is really fun, really interesting how you can like somebody's shoulder goes up and it's a clue that they're lying, or there's all it's a very fun class. And it helps you to, when you're interviewing, know if somebody's trying not to tell you something. Um, that's Bruce at leakingthetruth.com. Another one was Claire and I did this one together, working as a team. It's Institute of Investigators and Attorneys. It was in Wisconsin, and it was the Wisconsin State Public Defender's Office. I thought that was really valuable. We got to do mock interviews and we got to do mock um, case trials. So we were like cross-examined as private investigators on the stand by the attorneys. And you want that to happen in practice before you end up on the stand. I've only been on the stand once, and I wasn't lying in any way, shape, or form, but they tried to make it out like I was a really evil, unethical, lying private investigator. And so you definitely get rattled up there. But so you want to practice that if you can. Um, but so I would just go to as many trainings as you can possibly go to. And just you're going to have to do the work yourself and make mistakes, unfortunately, in the beginning. I mean, I'm embarrassed about a lot of the things the first interview I did, I didn't expect somebody to answer the door. The person that did answer the door, it was shocking that they answered the door. And I just kept saying, um, um, and I was recording it. So the person I was working for got to hear how many times I said, but it worked out. Um, they ended up calling and it was helpful that I talked to him, weirdly. But yeah, you're just gonna not be great at first, but every surgeon has to do a surgery on their first patient. Every pilot has to fly a plane with 200 passengers for the first time. And so asking someone some questions and being embarrassed about it for the first time is pretty low stakes, even though your heart will be pounding and you will be nervous. But you just have to, that's how you get confident and that's how you get better. Yes, Claire, are you waving at me?
Sally, I am waving at you. Would now be a good
Okay,
time to stop and just see if people have any questions on what you've said so far? I see at least one in the chat.
sure.
Um, yeah, if
Love
people
questions. I'm
people
open.
want to speak up, go ahead and raise your hand or just unmute yourself and ask your questions. We'll just take 2 minutes.
This is Mark. Can I make a quick comment and somewhat of a question as well, too?
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for putting this on, and I appreciate hearing your story. One of the things I love about this business is people come from different walks of life and do stuff, and I come from more of a traditional background. Maybe I was a Secret Service agent for 11 years, polygraph examiner for 8 of those. I worked for both Amazon and T-Mobile in investigative roles, and now I run my own business, mainly training things. But my area of expertise is interview and interrogation. And I think a lot of people really like the training that comes along with that because if you like talking to people, or if you like that kind of mode of getting information from people, the training can be a lot of fun, and it's I don't know, certain people like myself really enjoy that. What I would say is after doing an enormous amount of training in this, from everything from, polygraph school to several Reed courses, Wicklander, Zulawski, a lot of other things, and now
Mhm.
doing the training myself, is get as much as you can for sure, but make sure when you go, um, be critical of that, because there are a lot of people, myself included, if anyone took my training, I would want them to be critical of, like, challenge me on something or say, hey, this will work for me or it won't work for me. You have to really know your own set of rules and policies and procedures, however those are, when you are, for what you do specifically. Like, what I teach HR people is certainly different than what I teach ICAC folks or law enforcement folks. So you have to know what works and what doesn't work for you. You have to know yourself really well about what you can pull off and what you can't. And I would say take a little bit from each one of those things. Specifically, you mentioned the body language stuff, and this may be my own little soapbox on that as a polygraph examiner, that we're kind of biased as that that's the best way to get the truth out of somebody. But um, if you do take Wicklander used to teach a lot about looking left, looking right, all that stuff. I can tell you from experience working over 90 homicides and 300 cases against crimes against children. Body language is about changes, not about a specific change. Like, don't let anyone tell you if they have this thing. So many people have different cultures, different backgrounds, different whatever. You have to be just look for changes. And then when you see a change in body language, when you learn to be observant of those things, use that change as an opportunity to explore that part more. And that's, for me, take it or leave it, in my experience of years and years of doing this, that's as best as body language gets, because it really, outside of that, the science is about 50-50 because people are so different. It's important to recognize that people have nonverbal cues, but make sure you look at that as just what's the change in that nonverbal cue, not what is, don't look for a specific one. Just advice, take it or leave it. But
No,
thank you anyway.
that's exactly what Bruce teaches about finding the baseline. I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree 100%. It's and so someone like you from the Secret Service and doing polygraphs and all that. I When I first went to my first conference in Texas, I was thinking, I'm very judgmental and critical, and I was thinking, oh gosh, all these people like you, mostly men, former law enforcement, FBI, Secret Service. I'm going to be so, they like laugh me out of the room. Some dancer coming in here. Who does she think she is? That's what I was thinking they would say. But they were the absolute opposite. So kind, so warm, so helpful, so generous. And, just it wasn't you, but thank you for being so much nicer and less scary than I thought people like you were going to be, because I never had been around anybody in that field. And also, I'd love to know about your interviewing training, because I can't get enough interviewing training. I love it. And I agree with you on knowing who to send in for which interviews, right? There's women can, I think people, men and women, open up to women more than they open up to anybody. Um, but it definitely depends on who you're dealing with. So
Great point. And I'm glad you had that experience, because we should all be in this together. We're here to teach each other, to work with each other. I've learned when I used to teach polygraph to folks, I learned things from folks that were just starting that I took with me and I wouldn't have known. So you have to really keep an open mind. Here, I'll give you a silly one, and then
you just muted yourself. You just muted yourself.
sorry.
We're gonna actually move on forward because
All
I'm
right.
a little
Okay.
concerned about Sally's. Yeah, definitely share in chat if you'd like, Mark. That would be great. I appreciate your weighing in. I want to make sure we leave our presenter with enough time to finish though. So go
Okay,
ahead, Sally.
my next one was just join every association that you can, and meet people and talk to people and share ideas and be generous with what you know, and connect people with each other. People appreciate it and think of others like, Claire has this skill, Pat has this skill. You two need to know each other and, just be that and it will come right back to you naturally. Um, I worked for an attorney who was on a big case in New York and he works in DC and New York. And I thought, I love working for this attorney. So I immediately joined an association in New York. Um, and, get get, I'm telling myself too, get registered, certified as a PI in as many states as possible. I started in Virginia. I am now in DC. I'm working on Maryland. But that we have reciprocity with different states. So the bigger, your net is just and go join, become certified in states that you either want to live in someday or vacation in and let your business pay for you to be there. So that's my advice. I need to follow it myself. Um, but yeah, going to conferences, joining associations, meeting people. I just recently became a member of NALI, and I'm going to their February Nashville conference. Looking forward to that. An example of just connecting and meeting people. Claire knows I met a woman who was a PI we just had a phone conversation. 2 years later, she retired and gave me some of her best attorneys. And I've been working for them ever since. So you just never know who you're going to meet and how they're going to be able to help you. And of course, you have to be helpful too. Um, let's see what else. Register. Yes. Okay, business resources for opening a business. I listen to business podcasts. I listen to PI podcasts. Some of the PI podcasts in my library are PI Perspective, Set for Sentencing, which I listen to help me with mitigation investigations, Courtroom Stories and Tactics by it's a Virginia trial attorneys podcast, but I think attorney podcasts are really relevant for our field, and it might be a good place to advertise. The Sound of Pursuit is an investigator's podcast. The OSINT podcast, Fraudish podcast with Kelly Paxton, and Truth Be Told, and that's the one, Mark, your name's Mark, we're mentioning that Wicklander, and I forget how to say with the Z. They do a lot of interviewing. They are an interviewing podcast, so I like listening to that. Um, there's something that's shocked me. It's called SBDC, Small Business Department Center, or something like that. But the email is help at Mason BDC, no, sorry, help at masonsbdc.org. And there's supposedly one in every single state. I could not believe the amount of resources that they have. They're out of a university and they are there to promote small businesses in each state. And I just can't tell you how much information and resources and meetings and free help that they have to offer. I wish I could take advantage of it. It would be like going to college for small business. If I had all day to do it, I would do all of their trainings and go to everything. But usually I'm working, but they are a fantastic resource. So please look them up. Claire knows I have become obsessed with using AI to ask every question about everything. So don't leave it out of asking for business questions and what you want to do specifically. It's very useful. Of course, old school business books, PI books. I've got How to Rocket Your Private Investigation Firm by John Hoda. I don't know if anybody's heard of him. I actually hired him to be my PI coach for a little while when I was first getting started. Um, I recommend subscribing to PI magazines because in the ads in the magazines are all kinds of resources and conferences and upcoming things, and it's just a great connector. They do have good articles, but I mean, I think the ads are almost more valuable than the articles. Okay, so number 5 for me is just boring business stuff. Sorry to start with boring business. This is all my worst. I don't like any of this, but I do it just so that I can do whatever I want. When you want to have your own business, you usually have an idea that is different, but you have to do things your way. And I wanted to create a business that I wished existed. So I did. And so I had to go through all of the grueling, horrible things. Creating an LLC is so easy, but if you've never done it, it scares you. I didn't even know what having a company CV is. Anybody else? Um, it's like Latin for, it's basically like a company resume, and attorneys want you to have a company CV. And that stressed me out. But all it is taking all of the people that work for you and putting their skills on, one kind of company resume, we'll call it. Look into it. I'm happy to share mine with anybody I'm happy to share everything. So feel free to email me and ask me for anything, and I will help you share whatever I know. But creating a company CV is important. I became a compliance agent in Virginia and, yeah, I guess, and DC, to have my business there and had to create a business, I had to get a business license, all boring, boring stuff, but it can be done. Um, we have QuickBooks, we have an accountant, you want a separate bank account for your business. You want a separate credit card for your business. If you don't know this, I'm just going to tell you this because I ran a dance studio for 20 years and didn't know it till it was no longer a studio. If you pay, so for instance, I was paying every bill out of my dance studio um, bank account. I was paying the gardener. I was paying everything because my accountant had always told me, Sally, you are Just Dance and Just Dance is you. So I just wrote all my expenses, personal expenses, out of my dance studio account. I found out later that if somebody had sued me, my LLC would not have protected me because I was commingling funds. So private investigators have a very high likelihood of getting sued. We're in the risky business and we upset people, and people will sue us. And the last thing you ever want to do is have commingled your funds by paying a bill out of the wrong account and then opening yourself up to not being protected by your LLC. So I am sharing that because it was shared with me. Luckily, I got out of my business scot-free. Nobody ever sued me, but I'm glad I know it with this business. So I hope that protects somebody in the future. I got TrackOps for my case management system. I like it very much. I asked a few people that I highly respect, and they were using it, so I got it. And there's other alternatives. I'm sure they're good too. Um, I create, like I said, well, have a contract for your attorney, right? Um, and have them, just have a contract template ready to go for every case and attorney that you're dealing with, and have them sign that before you start working for them. And like I said, include that if you are sued or all of your stuff is that if you have to hire an attorney to protect yourself for a case you're working on for them, please put in your contract that they will cover those costs. Um, I have an intake form for every client that I get initially. I have a records release form that I have every client, not every, but you want, if they'll fill out a records release form, it'll help your investigation go a lot faster and you get a lot more information a lot easier. I have a template for report writing and basically outline of, how I write a report. That's a whole nother probably webinar. A report template, or I mean, sorry, a template for a FOIA request that can be changed, but good to have a starting one. I have an email folder for every email interaction that I have on one case goes into that email folder so that if I have to go back and say, no, you said this or I said that, I can find it easily. I have a folder on my desktop for that case. So I have the case management system, I have a folder on my desktop, and I have email folder. And I have three places where I keep all of the information because I never want to lose anything. Um, and then keeping up your renewal dates in your calendar for all of the things that you have to renew, like your certification, your licensing, again, all the boring stuff that it takes forever. Uh, just keep that in don't let anything lapse. Keep a calendar, and pay attention to that. Okay, we're done with the boring stuff. So I love the marketing. Um, how I marketed, like I said, is LinkedIn is a great place to market. You have to make yourself a decent profile and so strategically connect with attorneys that you want to work for, and then create a message that you're going to send to these attorneys that uh, I um, offer. My thing is 4 hours free. So just to let me win you over. Once you see how great I am, you're going to want to work with me all the time and pay me top dollar. I don't say it like that. I put it together I'll happily share my little marketing email or connect, what do you call it? Message that I send to all my attorney connections. And go after the best. Go after the big fish, the top attorneys in your area, the ones who you would just dream of working with. Maybe don't do it when you're brand new. Maybe learn on some lesser big shots. And then when you're brave, do it. But go after who you want to go after. For LinkedIn, I don't do this, but I think it's smart to do it if I had any time. Just posting like helpful hints that attorneys would find valuable, offerings, things for free without asking for anything is just a great way for people to know who you are and feel that you're intelligent and generous, and they may like you. I don't do it. I don't have time, but highly recommend it. I should do it. I don't personally love seeing a lot of attorneys do this, younger attorneys, a lot of overposting on LinkedIn, showing themselves hiking or, spa day or, they're just rejuvenating. It's like, to me, I don't want to see anything on LinkedIn that isn't very professional, very businessy. Um, we all need to do our self-care, but I think that's private. So depends on who you are and who you're trying to reach, but that's my opinion on that. I say stay ultra professional on LinkedIn. Um, so the other way I market is I email attorneys directly. I just, first you got to find them and get their email addresses. And then, like I said, I offer them 4 hours free And I also, so I have my email here. So I tell them what I'm great at. I tell them what I've done, and I have 8 examples of things that, cases where like, wow, that was amazing. And I listed all of the things. And then I also have 6 attorneys on this email with their phone number and their email address. And I say, call them. They're going to tell you how great I am, basically. So I think that direct emailing, it's worked for me. I've gotten some bites back and done some work for some people, and I've kept them on as clients. I also think that your happiest attorneys, you should tell them if they recommend you to another attorney that they'll get 4 hours free. So someone you're already working for all the time has an incentive to talk about you if they feel like they're going to rack up some free hours from you, right? And if they already believe in you, yes. Claire, I'm so
Would
glad
it
you're chiming
be,
in.
well, would it be fine if people do want to email you? I've put your email into the chat. Can they email you and ask for that letter or, you
Yes,
said anything else you've
there's,
got?
there's almost nothing I won't share. I
I know
can't
that
think of anything I won't share.
I can
So,
vouch for that. Sally, I just want to also give you maybe about a 5-minute heads up, and
woo!
then we might have to have you back. This is
Okay,
information packed.
I'll start speeding it up. Okay, show up at offices, attorneys' offices. Show up with swag. Introduce yourself. Smile. Be prepared to. They might ask you questions right away about case they're working on right then and there. What would you do with this? It's happened to me, and I had to answer, and I did. Um, Sponsor bar associations and be prepared to speak at them, and then bring your cards and mingle and talk to attorneys at the bar associations. Join the Chamber of Commerce. Ditto, speak, mingle, pass out your cards. Um, Maybe advertise on podcasts. I'm going to be advertising on a big trial attorneys podcast in Virginia. Let's go faster. Strengthen your communication skills. I should do that. I am doing that. I joined Toastmasters for report writing. I was super nervous about report writing, and it's embarrassing to write a report and then have to send it to the attorney and hope that you don't look like a dummy. So I called my sister's good friend, who's a advanced placement English teacher for seniors, and had her help me with my report, just go through them, edit them. She taught me a lot. I could probably get a refresher course, but reach out about your communication skills and, take a speech class, hire a speech coach. I will write an email expressing things that I want to say to an attorney, and then I'll run it through AI and say, please make this sound more professional. I'm sending it to an attorney, and they'll send it back to me much better. And of course, you don't have to use it as they wrote it, but it's quite helpful. Um, I've got reputation is everything. I think there's nothing more important than your reputation. If people trust you, if you go above and beyond, always do what you say you're going to do. Uh, that's it. That's what having a business is about. Your reputation, you can't buy it. Um, yeah, so your reputation is important. Listen to the attorneys, but sometimes attorneys want you to do things that are unethical. Don't do it, no matter what. Don't because the attorney will if an attorney wants you to do something that's unethical, believe me, if they get in trouble, they'll throw you under the bus. So you just stick with your what you know is right, and everyone will respect you more, and you'll work with ethical attorneys in the future. Um, Hire high quality, excellent people that you can trust, like Claire and the other people that work for me. because they are your reputation. I've got stories about that. Okay. Lastly, do all this hard work and expect miracles to happen because they happen every single day. I don't know how or why, but they do, and everything seems to work out. Miracles appear when you can't believe it, but they happen. If you're doing all the things that you want to do and working as hard as you can towards your own personal goals, everything you need will show up. And that's my, what is it called? Presentation.
That was amazing, Sally, as I knew it would be. Thank you so much. I say one thing about you, highlight one thing about you that I think you've touched on, but I'd like to call it out as, one of the things that makes you as successful as you are. What I have seen and am in the process of learning from you, among many other things, is that I'm struggling with how to put this, but I think there is an important thing that advocates and investigators have in common. That's why I was so intrigued by the name of your business in the first place, was that it said advocacy investigation.
Mhm.
And I think what it is when someone calls you, a new client calls you, you give them, I think an advocate, the role is to carefully, carefully listen, thoroughly investigate, like get all the way to the bottom of it. Also to believe that justice is possible in that circumstance, and then to strategize to reach that goal. And so, what I've seen happen many times is the seriousness with which you take each new client's needs and story and questions. It's like 110%. And where I can be tempted to say, okay, well, realistically, we're not going to get this or that to happen. You're constantly saying, no, we can. And here, let's strategize. Let's give it 110%. And I think that's what people find so compelling.
Thank you. I mean, we were in the situation ourselves, in a situation where I felt possibly people would not believe us, believe my husband was innocent. And to, so to have somebody listen to you and take you serious, I know what it's like to be desperate to have people believe you. And, not that you need to believe everybody, but if you're calling an investigator, in my opinion, you think you're innocent, right? So you want somebody to expose what's real. So I try to figure it out. I never discount people right off the bat.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Sally. Again, really appreciate you. I think everybody probably caught this, but Sally's email is in our chat, and she's very welcoming if you want to get in touch or find out more about a source that we didn't actually get written down into the chat. Please feel free to reach out. I would love to have you back again sometime, Sally, because you've got a lot of information to share. So thank you for speaking to us today. Everyone, you can find this within probably the next couple of days. You'll find it on our website at www.piai.us. And then we also maintain a YouTube channel. If you look back in the chat, you'll be able to find that link as well. Thank you all again.
It was an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.